Pam, you were talking about that it's not mandated for people to have road safety information given to them at school. Now, I think Living Streets is doing some programs on don't park on the footpath, so kind of basic New Zealand Road Rules 101. It doesn't seem to get through to people. And so it's not so much walking safely, it's drivers being safe when they're in control of their 1 and 2 ton metal boxes. What, have you got a comment on why we don't have this and what we could maybe do to encourage it? And Jenni, comments too, please.
Yeah, it's a really, really valid point and an exceedingly good question. I can't answer it. I think it's illogical that we don't actually have this mandated somewhere in our New Zealand curriculum document. There isn't any advocacy from the Ministry of Education. Having said that, they don't advocate a lot in the curriculum document, and it's designed for teachers to use to suit their local community and their particular circumstances. So what we really have to do is talk to teachers about this and become really active within schools and encourage schools. And there are so many people doing such incredible work in our councils, our regional councils, other groups around New Zealand, accessing schools, sharing resources, talking to kids about safety. So the work is being done. It's just can't be done nationally, if you like, from a centre point. It's being done in all the different communities in lots of different ways. But it's a really good question. I just don't know why it's not there.
Yeah, and I'll comment from the UK perspective. It's interesting that it's not here, because the getting things right around the school gate is a challenge in the UK as well. And I think it's because outside the school gate becomes not the curriculum. So things that where we would get the most interest and the most traction from government in the UK was actually with health and with transport. So that it's quite an interesting. It is an area, and to hear it's not so right there in the curriculum. It was the same. We had the same issues around a lot of stuff for Department of Education. Now, that's not to say they didn't have an awful lot of things that there were challenges around Department of Education in the UK, but it was an interesting area. So actually it was transport that picked up, it was the transport teams locally picked up road safety. As you're saying, Pam, every school is different, every community's different and has their own ways of dealing with things. But yeah, similar, kind of falls into that gap of actually whose responsibility is this to tackle this or other issues around schools and transport.
Cool, thanks. So that was a bit of a big question, because I know you can't really answer it. I think that's definitely something we should try and encourage some more of. So now Andrew's got a question here about Te Hiranga, I guess, and also for the WOW program in Living in UK. Will the class get some feedback so they can see the mode split each day? And there's another question from Francesca, maybe you could answer both of them. Do children also leave comments apart from clicking on the mode picture, how they got to school?
Those are really good questions. Thanks for those. In the workshops that we did designing this, we obviously worked extensively with children, teachers and other stakeholders to make sure that this was something people wanted to use. And we got a hugely enthusiastic response from the kids. And they did want to continue the story. They don't just want to say, I came on a bike. They want to say why they did. And they also want to be given strategies to talk to their parents about why they're not allowed to walk to school with their friends and similar conversations. So yes, that's what I want this to turn into. Initially, we have to make sure it works, and we need to make sure that teachers are signing up for it. So this first step was really just a really simple way of saying, okay, are you interested? This is all you have to do, and look at the data that's being generated. So the data obviously belongs to the classroom, and it belongs to the school. And we are hoping that the conversation the teacher has, and the conversation we'll be encouraging, is to talk about a then and a now situation and being able to analyse that data over time, whether it's within the class over a month or over a year, or if a school can analyse the data over successive months and years. That's really what we're hoping happens. Absolutely.
And if I may ask, would you also include that children do a short story, but you use a tool where what they say gets transcribed immediately on the screen? Because a lot of children, that will sort of be a challenge. And there's also children who have challenges around writing anyway. So you've got to be including everyone. So using a tool where they can speak it into and then it gets typed up immediately, because then you are filtering out what teachers might say or others, you get the child's immediate response. But I suppose that takes a lot of time to analyze.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And there are just so many amazing ideas that are coming out of this. So I agree, and I, keep them coming. It's awesome.
Thanks. So I'll manage the question. So if you could put your hand up or put your question in the comment, that would be appreciated, please, because we've got quite a few going here. So Gay or Paula, one of you, I see you've got your hand up. Could you ask your question, please?
Kia ora, Gay here. My question was about great work, Jenny and Pam. My question was whether we can get to the parents through the children about the pedestrian crossing rules, which a huge percentage of the New Zealand population to be blissfully unaware of their responsibilities, and they put all the onus on children and anyone else to wait at crossings, which isn't actually the current road rules.
Yeah, so you, like me, see children as influencers of the adults in their lives. And I think, again, if we're running our road patrols successfully where they're managed crossings, and the education that goes around why pedestrian crossings are the way they are and how they should be managed by the people driving as well as the people walking, those are essential messages that have to get into schools. Our police school community officers do a really good job talking to schools about that in some communities. But again, each school's an individual place, and it's quite difficult to know what's happening in all the school communities around New Zealand, just the ones that I hear about. But again, it's about making the child or the student the person who has the agency to feel that they can then pass the information they've got onto the adults in their lives and try and make a change. And I should just say, on the education portal, there are some examples there of communities around Aotearoa that are working really hard and to do this, and pedestrian crossings are one of the things that is a focus on the portal.
Thanks, Pam.
Right.
Did you have a comment on that?
I think just from our experience in the UK, it does vary. But like Pam says, where it can come from the schools and where you've got the teachers and the pupils really wanting to say, hey, this is our school and this is how we want our school to be safe, and sending that message out through the school. So the school being engaged and understanding and supporting the pupils to send that message out. Then the pupils start to perhaps run their own communication campaigns, which is an education activity in itself. It's difficult when, I do know it is difficult when it's left to just all of the pupils on their own to do that, because there is a difference in that relationship that young people will have with the adults in their life, and some are able to have that conversation and some less so. And that's why I think actually taking it through the school and the teachers and through education is a better collective approach, and giving voice to them collectively and saying this is what we want.
Great, thanks. So I see just to Tiffany Robinson from Auckland Transport says she's been involved in some road education booklets previously. So there's a great resource as well for us in New Zealand. So I'm just going to ask Delia and to ask her question, and then I see Celia's got one here as well. So Delia, please.
Thanks, Jenny and Pam. Look, my observation with working with the Walking School Bus program has been varied, and one of the key contributors to the success of the program, I feel, is insufficient support from senior management at school and from teachers. And I feel one sure success route to getting it up and running would be if we get them on board. And I think yesterday a few people had mentioned how important it is to bring the BLT or the PTA into the picture, because they are the voice of the school, of the parents. So that's one way of getting in. But my proposition is, would Waka Kotahi consider providing some additional funding for teachers who are just, I think, at the end of the day, as far as workloads are concerned. So we might say, look, the least we'd like you to do is, as far as this program, the Walking School Bus is concerned, is would you liaise with the school receptionist to put this little notice in the newsletter? You know, we'd always reinforce and reiterate that this is a parent-owned initiative, but we do need their support. It's all about how much of prioritization senior management makes of a program at school. And I think, like I said, I can't emphasize enough that bringing them into the picture, bringing a school principal, the BOT, PTA into the picture, and having teachers on board, all on the same page, to say, look, we need to speak to the same, you know, what are other messages we're trying to achieve here? We do have congestion around our school gate, obesity is on the rise, we have kids who aren't, you know, active enough. What are we going to do? You know, let's be the solution to the problem that we have. So Pam and Jenny, we do have, I work with transport coordinators, community transport coordinators, and they have a safe school travel plan for each school. And we do measure data. They have a survey that goes out annually, and we measure data as to how do they get to school? Do they walk, cycle, or scoot? So based on that, and based on problems that parents mention and see for themselves, we say, well, then let's try and work on a solution together, you know. But again, if we can get Waka Kotahi or the Ministry of Education to perhaps acknowledge the teachers' contribution, this is over and above their normal workload as teachers, you know, give them a unit or give them some sort of monetary recognition. I think that would help a lot. That would really do help.
Any response to that, Jenny or Pam?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a teacher myself. I don't think we could stretch teachers in any more directions right now if we tried. And a lot of the work they do in things like road safety is extra work done in their own time and with their own resources, and we really do need to acknowledge that. I am really happy to fund programs where teachers ask for training or help or in any way associated with road safety around their school. I can pay for release hours for them. I can help run workshops. I can do all those sorts of things. So as far as those costs are concerned, absolutely really happy to do that. Yeah, Jenny.
Oh, fantastic. Mm.
Yeah, I completely, you know, agree with Pam on what she's saying there. You know, I'm an ex-teacher as well, so I know those pressures of the classroom. And from the UK, from my UK experience and the UK perspective, you know, it's the same. It is unfortunately the same challenge over there. This type of thing is taken on by teachers quite often for love of the job and how important it is that children can get to school safely. One thing we did have within our programs, we had an established program, we had the WOW materials. We actually didn't work with schools if we didn't get senior leadership signing a letter and that buy-in to it. Now, it made it really tough for us to get schools signed up to the program, and we had targets around getting schools signed up to the program, but that is something from that UK Living Streets perspective on when we delivered the programs in schools, that we ensured that was the case. Otherwise, we had one passionate teacher who was going to struggle to make the change if we didn't have the buy-in from above. That's just an approach we took. Made it a little bit harder for our coordinators when they were going in at times, though, but it was important and added to the success.
Great, thanks, Jenny. So I think we've got time for one last question from Celia. One question that people have been asking is, how do we get on board with Te Harenga? How do we take part? So maybe if you could answer that as well. So Celia, if you'd like to ask your question.
Sorry, I had a question about how we can actually fund transport coordinators. I agree with Jenny that we need commitment from the school, from the principal and from the board, because without that, you'll often have younger junior teachers trying to make things happen that just don't get the sympathy across the board. But I just don't think it's okay that we can possibly expect teachers to do this out of hours. So my real question is, how do we get the funding through Waka Kotahi for, and it's mode shift as much as road safety. Look, road safety is important, but it sounds deeply boring compared to mode shift. So is there anything within the GPS that will get us operational rather than capital funding to support schools to do the right thing?
I think the points you make are great, Celia. I'm afraid I'm not the person to answer that question about that kind of funding. The great thing about Te Haerenga o Ngā Tamariki is that it's a really quick, easy thing for teachers to initiate. First thing in the questions we had for teachers were, when's the best time of the day? Is this going to take too much time out of your day? And so it's a really quick thing done at registration. I totally agree with you that mode shift, mode choice, all those sorts of things is a far more interesting topic than road safety, which is why in our curriculum resources we don't call it road safety. It's all about other stuff, and it's all through other contexts. And it's about making those connections between the fact that you're actually solving, by solving the way we interact in our transport systems, you're actually solving a whole lot of other problems as well, through sustainability, health and well-being, and just the sheer enjoyment of walking through your neighbourhood and getting to know the people around you. So absolutely, as far as I say, again, as far as the funding's concerned, I'm not the right person for that question, sorry.
Jenni, you got a comment on that?
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm not the person that can answer that funding question
Okay.
either, and you know, but I totally understand the challenges and the concerns there. And there are those two shifts that need to happen around schools. I am really interested in hearing today about the Te Haerenga project that is taking place, and possibly, Pam, we can have some chats when I've got my Waka Kotahi hat on as well, and share some of the knowledge and experience and perhaps put you in touch with some people who've the experiences I've had with the travel tracker as well. That might be helpful in further development.
Great. Well, thanks. I'd like to thank our two speakers for this session on walking to school and how children get around, because it's a real hot topic for us. So thank you very much. It was really informative.